I'm Jennifer Herline, Executive Director of French Heritage Society, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us for the first program in our Meet the Owners series, which will put the spotlight on some of French Heritage Society's grant recipients and allow you to interact with them directly. These programs will also provide critical support for our chapters' efforts to fundraise for their grant projects. Speaking of chapters, did you know that we have 10 of them in the United States and one in Paris, and that each year they select grant projects to raise funds for? Today's program will support our Dallas chapter, and I thank Chapter Chair Carol Hall for leading the charge there. You'll get to hear from her a little bit later. An important part of French Heritage Society's mission over the past 39 years is awarding preservation grants to culturally and historically significant French architecture in France and the United States. As we head into our 40th anniversary in 2022, we're so proud to have supported over 600 deserving projects. Today, we'll learn more about FHS grant recipient, the Château d'Esquelbec, which is in the north of France near Dunkirk, where it's absolutely gorgeous, as you can see. And we'll be hearing from the owner, Johan Tramer-Morael, FHS Deputy Director Karen Archer, who is part of our fabulous grants team with Isabelle Laroulière and Sarah de Longsan, is joining us from Paris to lead the conversation. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Your videos are currently disabled, but you're welcome to submit questions throughout using the Q&A button along the bottom of your screen. I'll share them with Johan and Karen following their conversation. At the end of the program, we'll give you the opportunity to turn your videos on and unmute yourself so that you can ask questions directly should you wish to do so. And now I can't think of a better way to kick this off than by being transported to the Château d'Esquelbec through this short video.
Welcome, Johan. Thank you for welcoming us. We can see a little bit of Esquelbec in the background, and it looks like you're having much nicer weather there than we are in Paris today.
It's quite sunny, but a little bit cold and windy today.
Thank you for braving the cold so that we can have a beautiful view outside. Could you
dovecote behind me?
Yes, when we'll be seeing more of that.
Yeah.
Could you perhaps just give us an introduction to a little bit of the history of the chateau, how it came to be in your family, and then how you have taken it over?
Of course. So the Château d'Esquelbec was bought by my grandparents in 1946, just after the war. My grandfather is, my family is from the region, and during the war, their house was destroyed by the German, and they decided to go to the next village, to the village next to their house, and to buy the Château d'Esquelbec. For them, it was only a second house because they were also living in close to Paris. They were industrials, like many of the family in the north of France. The north is it's a region in France where you had a lot of industries, and my grandfather was an industriel, and that's how he made his living, with industries, with paper industries. And in '96 he bought the Château d'Esquelbec, and unfortunately in '84 the castle was destroyed by because of a tower that fell down, that collapsed, a very, very big tower that was more than 40 meters high, that collapsed. And that was the the injury of the castle, and that's why my family couldn't live here anymore. That's how the chateau was abandoned for many, many years.
So it was at least 30 years that the chateau was abandoned and completely uninhabited.
For 35 years exactly. But more to come back to the history of the castle, because the Flemish, we're in the Flemish side of France. The Flanders have a part in France and in Belgium, and we're in the Flemish side in France, and it has a very typical architecture.
Ben, perhaps we could start seeing some of the slides so that we can see some of the architecture. And that was, perhaps you can point out, we'll see a few more.
So here we're looking, can you
This is
come
very
back
nice.
to the, yes.
Yeah.
So here, for example, a detail of architecture that you can notice, very Flemish, is this pignon with the small tower. It's very hard to but it's the small tower with a d'écran. Maybe you can help me, Karen, with the word in English, but look, l'écran.
With crenellations,
Yes.
on the left, there's a very small tower.
Yeah, very small tower, and that's for cigogne. It's for cigogne. It's a net for cigogne.
Oh, okay. Cigogne is
I forgot the name for.
so have I for the moment. Swans. Swan.
So of course the architecture of the castle changed, evolved during the years, and it was built in 1970, the first construction, and then it evolved on the 16th century, and then the 18th century again. So we have in Esquelbec, in this castle, we have a lot of influence from the history and the countries around us.
And of course, it's a brick construction.
Well, a part of it is a reconstruction, and a part of it is original from the 15th century, 1470.
But in brick, it was built in brick.
Yes, it was built in brick in 1470. But you have to know that in 1470, this region was not French at the time. It was what we call les Pays-Bas Espagnols. So les Pays-Bas Espagnols lasted until Louis XIV decided to annex this region to France, which was in 1670.
So yes, it was part of the Habsburg possessions.
Yes. Oh, that's my dear family.
You can introduce the next generation.
Yeah, the next generation. You can see them. Maybe I show you a little bit around. Ah, they're here. They're arriving. This is the entrance of the property. And you can see my little family, my little Marco, the next generation, and my wife, I know. And she has an American flag as a sweat. Not done on purpose. And hello, Marceau. How are you? Want to say hi to everyone? So here you can see the clarity of Esquelbec is that we're at the center of a village. So here, can you hear me, Kevin? Yes.
Yes, we can hear a little bit of the wind as well, but it's fine.
So here you have the church of the village. So we're right in the middle of the village, which is quite rare to have a property such as Esquelbec in the center. So this is really a particularity of the property. I give you a small tour. Here we have a nice sunset on the garden. I hope you can see. Yes.
Mhm.
And the moat with the duck and the bridges. And you can see the castle on the left.
Very nice.
So to enter the garden or to enter the property, you have to cross this bridge that I'm crossing now. And then you arrive in the courtyard with the dovecote. And then you cross another bridge to reach the garden.
Fantastic. So we really have been invited into Esquelbec.
Yes, with the family.
You think we have a little bit more of the architectural detail? Oh, here you see the town.
Yes, so you can see here the village, the place of the village, and you have a nice overview of the property with the courtyard with the dovecote, the right on the right of the castle, and the garden with all the vegetable garden. Most of the garden is a vegetable garden, and also because at the time when the garden was drawn in at the beginning of the 17th century in 1605, at the time it was a Flemish area, and the Flemish gardens at the time were essentially to produce vegetables mostly, and little by little they became, after centuries, we had a French influence on the garden, and they became more, as we call a garden, un jardin ornemental, like
ornamental gardens.
Yes. So here is a representation of the garden, the property in the 17th century. So this is a treasure that we have, because it's very, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's to have a sketch like this, a drawing of the property with many details.
Mhm.
You see in the, can you come back to the slide? For example, in the garden, you can see that you have chambers. We call each area, each part, each square of the garden, it's a chamber, it's a room, basically.
Mhm.
And in each room, the gardener used to draw something with the vegetables that he was experimenting, vegetable or flowers, but mostly useful vegetables.
Very
And
nice.
you see as well the dovecote on the left. And the dovecote is one of the masterpieces of the property, because it's one of the main elements of the property that didn't change from the 17th century.
Right, right. And it's also a very typical element, the typical style of the region with the Flemish architecture.
Yes, with the bulb, you can
Yes.
see the bulb on the roof. That was very typical of the region. And and we know that this etching is very precise, because, for example, in one of the first house that you see under the dovecote, we counted each anchor that maintained the walls. You can see as a black a little black tray a little black,
Little black line.
yeah, black line, and that is an anchor. And you have the same number of anchor on the house now than on the etching. So we know that this etching is a very good representation and a good base for us to do research.
Exactly.
You
Okay.
can go on the next slide. So this is a nice capture that we took from a little plane. That was last summer when we were doing the roof, the last roof of the castle, El West, the south.
The south
side.
wing.
Yes, and you
And
can
you
Sorry?
also have a little like stair step architecture, which is also typical of the region. Between
exactly that was the we call it. It has a funny name because it calls the pas moineau, like a bird step, step. So this is very typical from the Spanish era, when the Spanish were here in Flanders. You can go on the next slide.
Yeah, you have another view. The architecture and the proportions are beautiful.
Yeah, it is very big from the outside, but you can see that in the middle you have a courtyard. So the chateau, the castle is very impressive from the outside, but not so impressive from the inside. Less impressive.
Mm-hmm. And you're still restoring the inside, is that correct?
Yes. So as I told you in 84, I mentioned it earlier. In 84, there was a big tower that was standing 40 meters on top of the roof that fell down on the north side. So the north side is the side that you see on the screen now, is the right side, on the right. And when the tower, when it fell, it totally collapsed this north side. So we had to rebuild completely the roof and also the bricks, the walls.
And that's the time that your family left, when the tower collapsed.
Yes, my family had to leave, and and then in 2005, my parents started the renovation. They rebuilt the walls and the roof on the north side. And then for 10 years, they continue a little bit on and off to do renovation. But of course, no one was here. We're all living in Paris. And it's very hard to maintain this kind of property when you're not living in the place, of course. And so when I was, at a time when it was good for me, I decided to move there and to continue what my parents were doing. In fact, one day I saw my parents still at 70, working like crazy to renovate. When you have a castle, you're always moving. You always have to work. You cannot just, it's not the vide chateau as we think it is. The vide chateau is a little bit difficult. You have to work all the time and to maintain it.
Yes.
And, at some point, I saw my parents still fighting for the house, and I thought that maybe it was a good time for me to take over, to continue. And
so you're actually the third generation. It was your grandfather who purchased this.
Yes, my grandfather. So it was a big choice, of course, for me to. It was a big move, of course, because before I was working in events. I was organizing events in the art industry, and so I quit and I moved to the country. and started to do a year to test to see if it was working for me. And after a year, I said, "Oh, it's amazing," and people like it. People were also giving me a lot of good feedback. Uh,
Mhm.
what was being done. People from the village, of course, were very happy to see the castle live again.
Yes.
It was very important because, as you saw, I showed you that the castle is located in the middle of the village, and
Mhm.
of course, the castle play a big part in the life of the village. For
Yes.
centuries, the castle played a role in the region and in the village. And in '84, everything stops. The life of the castle,
Mhm.
and it was a big loss for the village.
Yeah, we can imagine.
And people were always wanting to see the castle live again. And unfortunately, it was very hard for us to, you know, to 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 redo it very quickly. It was so big. So usually when something happened like this, I mean, people disappear, and
Yeah.
and we forget the place, we forget it, or we give up. But no one
Mhm.
gave up in the family. My parents never gave up, and they maintain it. They they have done whatever was possible for them. Maybe I'm a little bit more lucky, and I can spend the time to work on the castle. And
Mhm.
for me, it became a real full-time job to maintain this property and to make it live again.
Yes. That's a problem with a lot of properties.
So the first thing that we have done when I say we because when I decided to move from this to move to the country and to start this kind of new business, uh, I had some friends and some people I was working with in the industry, in the art industry before that came with me. Maybe not to live with me all the time, but they would come every weekend or to help me organize events. And for example, here on the picture, you see this big room. This is the main room of the castle. I mean, the big space that was reconstructed after the tower collapsed. So this
Mhm.
is the big room. Um, and we started to do a first event on history of the chateau. We wanted to bring all the research that we had done to basically to show it to the people. And so this was maybe in 2018, I think, when we opened the inside. So this is not an exhibition, and this is the working process. We're working on the room and doing the. But the first thing we did when we arrived was to open the garden. The garden was the outside, of course, because we couldn't get inside the chateau. It was impossible in 2017.
Right. Right.
So
Let's
we
let's speak about Johan. Let's speak a little about the dovecote, and then we'll get to the garden.
yes. So the dovecote is here. Uh, the, when we arrived, we knew that we couldn't invite people inside the castle, although everyone wanted to go inside the castle, but that was not our project. We couldn't handle the inside, so we decided, okay, let's work on the outside. It was the easiest, the fastest way to bring people in the property and to start make the property live again. So we decided to redo also the dovecote. The dovecote is, as I said, one of the masterpieces of the property, and also is at the entrance of the property.
Mhm.
So we felt, we felt that it was a good thing to have something very, very,
Yes, yes.
that says hello to visitors, and that was very nice. And so, as you see, there is, I don't know if you see it from here, but there is on the stone, it's written 1606. So this was the end of the construction of the property.
Ah, okay.
So this is the dovecote after renovation. So if you go
Okay.
the slide before, Ben, you can see the difference. You see the masonry. Can you?
Yeah, we'll go a little bit further. I think we have some better examples coming up.
Yes.
So let's go to the next slide. This is probably during.
Yes.
Here we go. Here we see during the restoration.
During renovation. So it took, it was a project during 2 months and a half, almost 2 months and a half, with a company, a company that's in the village.
Ah, okay. And also, just so some of our people might not know, you are classified as a historic monument, which means
Yes, I was
that
going.
you're an
Yeah,
architect, a state architect for patrimony.
Yes.
That experience.
Yes. So in France, as soon as you're state patrimonial, you have to ask for authorization to do anything.
Yes.
For example, if you want to redo your roof, I need an authorization. If I want to work on the masonry, on the stone, on the bricks, I have to ask authorization. So it takes a lot of time from the time when you ask the authorization and when you get it. And of course, you cannot start before you get it. Otherwise, then you can, they can take you on grip. They can, they can take you on as a bad student, and then you don't get your subvention,
You don't get your money.
Your money. Because the good thing about this is, it's true, there is a lot of bureaucratic and administration to do, but also France has a good administration that preserve monument.
And also they ensure that the restoration is done with traditional techniques and materials and
Yes.
respect for the period.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And so I think it has a good side and a bad side. The bad side is that it costs a little bit more. It costs, every time you ask a devis, of course, it's going to be almost, the double.
Yeah, it's more expensive.
It's more expensive.
But it also preserves, because if you don't have that, one owner may want to preserve it as it should be, but then the next may not. So here it's protected no matter what for the next generations.
Yes. For example, my father, maybe you'll see it because he's around, but my father he doesn't like to work. He has worked with this administration before me. He has worked for 30 years fighting with them, because of course when you don't have the time to follow the administration, it's a big burden on your shoulder. It's a big burden.
But it also allows Château owners to receive state funding as well.
Exactly.
Advantage. And it also protects some of the surrounding areas around the monument.
Yes, yes.
Which in our day, with wind turbines and other types of encroachment, is becoming more and more important as well.
Me,
Perhaps we can see some more of the slides of the restoration. So.
Yes. I'm totally fond of this administration because I think that they do a great job and they help a lot owners.
Mm-hmm. And so we'll just show a few images of the restoration, and if you want to comment, go ahead. And
here, on the left side, you have the bulb, the traditional bulb that was where we took off the ardoise, the
slates.
The slates, on it, and we discover how it was made, and we discovered that we had a few restoration on the bulb already since the 17th century. Yes. So you see the slides here. The slide. That's when they uncover it. They take out the slides. Yeah.
And here they are working on the bulb.
Yeah. Yeah. So here you
here's
see the masonry that was very, a lot of renovation needed
for the brick.
to be done. And it wasn't a monument that was going to collapse or that there was urgency to do, but we decided to do it because it was a symbol for the property. It was symbolic to redo this dovecote. Also because the dovecote was exactly the same shape as the tower that collapsed.
Ah, okay.
Yes, it had eight. It was an octagon.
Eight sides.
Yes, and the tower had 8 sides as well.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna see. Here you just see a little bit more of the.
Yes, and you can see on the picture on the below on the right side is the inside of the dovecote.
Beautiful.
So for maybe some people don't know how, some people don't know what is it for. The dovecote is to, at the time, dovecote has a history. At the time, not everyone could have a dovecote. Only the powerful seigneur,
Nobleman.
noble could have a dovecote, and it was usually the biggest the dovecote was, the biggest the property was. It represented the superficie, the kilometers that was around
The surface.
the surface of the property. And this is a quite big dovecote.
It's a very impressive.
Yeah.
I believe this is after restoration.
Yes, this is after restoration. This was taken a few months ago.
Very good.
Yeah, this is winter time. Yeah.
And here you have during and after at the same time.
Yeah. So this is when it was during every year we do some events, of course, we have a program of event, and we decided to inaugurate the dovecote, the end of the restoration, during our flower show.
Ah,
And this is the moment when we inaugurate, and you have some kids playing music. The school next to the village, in the village, that was playing music.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Now we're going to move on to the gardens. Actually, the first thing that when you took over the property, you began to restore. So maybe you can tell us why the gardens are important to you and how you went about the restoration.
The garden is, we knew, I knew that from the beginning that the garden were important in Escalbec. The garden were in the etching that I showed you from Saint-Des-Russes from the 1606, beginning of 17th century. And they didn't change since that. They didn't change. It's the same architecture.
We'll just keep showing the slides as you
so we decided the sense was to renovate a little bit the garden, to replant all the fruitier, the
fruit trees.
The apple trees and the pear trees that are in the garden. We have approximately 250 apple and pear trees, and that we call in French the fruitier jardinier, which means that those trees are conducted, and you can give them the shape you want. And at the
Mm.
time, it was an art that gardeners knew how to handle, and they were conducting their trees the way they wanted. And this is something particular in this garden, is this conducted trees.
They have the branches go up.
Yeah, the branches, sometimes you have 7 levels of branches, sometimes 3. And we renovated as well the, if you see on the previous slides, Ben, please, sorry. If you, Ben, if you, thank you. You can see the vase here, the white sculpture.
Yes.
The white sculpture on the, not this size, no. Can you?
Forward one. Yes, here you go.
So those vases were very important in the garden because they were installed in the 18th century, and that is when this part of the region was much influenced by French tradition, and this is a typical French sculpture or French sculpture that you would put in garden in the 18th century. So also in this garden, you can see the history of France, when this region was Flemish and when it became French, more French. So here in the backyard, in the backyard, here in the background, sorry, you can see the glass house. A very beautiful glass house that is
the greenhouse.
The greenhouse, sorry, yes, the greenhouse.
Which is glass. It is glass.
The greenhouse that was renovated as well in 2018.
Sorry, we're just going to have to go a little bit.
Yes.
Beautiful views.
Yes, you can see it here in the middle of the vegetable garden.
Next.
So we try to mix vegetables and flowers and to combine the two, the beautiful and the useful.
And every season as well.
Sorry?
And you have every season represented as well.
Yes, yeah, yes.
So now we're going to move on. After leaving the garden, we're going to move on, next, Ben, to what you've done to organize different events. Here we have some examples of things.
Yes. So here on this picture is an important picture because it was our first event here. And when we arrived in the property in 2016-17, we felt that a lot of people wanted to tell memories that they had about the chateau.
Oh.
So we have an artist that came for a few months and that found the people that lived something in the chateau, that wanted to say something, and he archived the memory of the castle by interviewing and picturing the people that knew about this castle. But it wasn't about the big history of the castle. It was more about little stories that happened before 84, before the doors were locked. And this
So
is and this is the picture.
Local people.
Yeah, the local people that knew the castle, that used to come when they were young or that were working here. And after, for example, now more than 3 people passed away since this exhibition. This was in 2017, this picture.
Very nice. So maybe we can just show a few more examples.
So this is in 2018 or 19 maybe, where I'm in front of the people in in short. You see, I'm not the châtelain traditionnel with the tie. But I'm giving a tour. I'm giving a guided tour of the inside of the castle to the people living in Esquelbec and
Oh,
the next village next to Esquelbec. So we were doing an open house basically.
okay. And you also have quite a few visitors from England, from Holland, from Belgium.
Yes, we have quite some visitors from Belgium, of course, because we're just a few kilometers
Mhm.
from the frontier, from the border, and we have, of course, from people from Holland because they love the architecture
Yes.
of here
Yes.
because they lost everything, and also in Belgium they lost a lot of their history in architecture. So they come to Esquelbec and they for
Mhm.
them it's like going back to the time. And
Mhm.
yeah,
Maybe we'll just run through the next few events just so that they can get a flavor for obviously things with gardens.
yeah. So this is during the flower show.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah,
Next,
you can go to the next slide.
next.
This is during an event that we do at night when night comes, and we invite people for tales, and people can visitors can go around the garden with lights, with a torchlight. And this is an amazing picture because it looks like a drawing or not a real
Mm.
picture, but this is the kitchen of the inside the castle that we reactivated during the Journée du Patrimoine past
Heritage Days.
yes, in 2019, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But no,
Yeah.
no, it was this time in 2020.
And this is just a nice flavor.
Yeah, this is the side of the castle that was reconstructed in 2005.
Fantastic. And now we just will end this part of the presentation with just some of your future projects.
Yes. So this is a project that we worked on, and that's already at the administration that we want to launch next September. So all the menuiserie, all the windows from this side of the castle. So it's the back side, the side that you see from the Parc Paysager, from the park. And can you come to a previous? Yes, here on the picture on the left, you can see the moat. The moat,
Yes.
you say the moat, and the
Yes.
moat is very important. It's a very important side of the architecture of the castle because you see its reflection in the moat, and it's part of the architecture. It's part of the beauty of this castle. It's this reflection, and the moat are being now a little bit the earth is going is invading the moat. So very soon we won't be able to go in a boat around the castle, and it's very bad for the castle because it has to be kept inside the water for the maintenance of the masonry, the maintenance of the
So another project.
yeah, this is another project, is the cleaning of the moat, and it's a very big one.
Yeah,
So,
Beautiful.
And then I
for
think
the
we just-
renovation of this dovecote, when we received a grant of the French Heritage Society, it was a good part of the budget of renovation, maybe 20%, so 25%, or and it was more. I mean. More than the money, it was also good for us, a very good opportunity to communicate as well, but also to motivate ourselves to continue this project, because every time someone congratulates us of doing this kind of job, It makes us very happy, and it makes us continue the work we do. And it's true, every year is a every year is an experience. Every year is the last year, because how long can we maintain this kind of property when you're a small family like us, without a lot of money? Usually people that, a lot of, of course, some people are like us, don't have a lot of money, and just spend their life working on their houses, but uh, you never know how long it can last, basically. And the feedback of the people is very important. It's very important to make us continue, because well, the the beauty of this project is to live it, to live this life, and to meet the people. Yeah. So just wanted to thank you again for this uh, for this grant that you, and this congratulation, this encouragement that you gave to French owners. Not only not only me, it's all the French owners that you're helping, and I think it's a good thing. It's a very good thing.
And I think you've so beautifully articulated how important the support is that French Heritage Society gives, because it represents a group of people who believe in this and who are supportive of it and who want to hear about it. And I saw some of the community events that you organize earlier on the screen. So with people, when we get to come back to France, which we're all extremely anxious about, when is it open to the public? In the summer, for example?
Yeah,
The gardens are open to the public, is that
yeah,
right?
yeah. From April to October.
Okay, great.
Mm.
I thank all of you for joining us today. I especially thank you, Johan, for sharing all of this incredible information and these photos, and Karen, beautiful job moderating. And we hope to see you all at the next program, which is the last week of May. We'll send details out about it. And in the meantime, have a good evening if you're in France. Have a great rest of the afternoon if you're here in the United States. Thank you.